Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Chapter 28. Narada Uvacha Sainika Bhayanam Noye Bharhishman Dhishtakarinaha Prajwarakalakanyaabhyam Vicheruravani. The great sage Narada continued, My dear king Prachina Barhishit, afterwards the king of the Yavanas, whose name is fear itself, as well as Prajvara, Kalakanya, and his soldiers began to travel all over the world. Taye kadaturabhasa Puranjana Purim Nrupa Rurudhurbhaumayogadyam Jaratpannagapalitam. Once the dangerous soldiers attacked the king of Puranjana with great force. Although the city was full of paraphernalia for sense gratification, it was being protected by the old serpent. Kalakanyaapi bubuje Puranjanapuram balat yayabhibhutah purushaha sadhyo nissaratami yat. Gradually, Kalakanya, with the help of dangerous soldiers, attacked all the inhabitants of Puranjana's city and thus rendered them useless for all purposes. Tayopabhujyamanam vai yavana sarvato disham dwarbhih pravishya sumrusham pradaryan sakalam purim. When Kalakanya, daughter of time, attacked the body, the dangerous soldiers of the king of Yavanas entered the city through different gates. Then they began to give severe trouble to all the citizens. Tasyam prapidyamanayam abhimani puranjanaha avaporuvidham stapan kutumbhi mamata. When the city was thus endangered by the soldiers and Kalakanya, King Puranjana, being overly absorbed in affection for his family, was placed in difficulty by the attack of Yavana Raja and Kalakanya. Kanyoparudo nashtashrihi krupano vishayatmakaha nashtaprajno hrutaishwaryo gandharvayavanairbalat. When King Puranjana was embraced by Kalakanya, he gradually lost all his beauty. Having been too much addicted to sex, he became very poor in intelligence and lost all his opulence. Being bereft of all possessions, he was conquered forcibly by the Gandharvas and the Yavanas. Vishirnam swapurim vikshya pratikulananadrutan putran pautranugamatyan jayam jagata sauhrudam. King Puranjana then saw that everything in his town was scattered and that his sons, grandsons, servants, and ministers were all gradually opposing him. He also noted that his wife was becoming cold and indifferent. Atmanam kanyaya grastam Panchala nari Panchala naridhushitan duranta chintamapanno nalebhe tat pratikriyam. When King Puranjana saw that all his family members, relatives, followers, servants, secretaries, and everyone else had turned against him, he certainly became very anxious. But he could not counteract the situation because he was thoroughly overwhelmed by Kalakanya. कामानभिलषन्दीनो यातयामाश्च कन्यया विगतात्मगतिस्नेहः पुत्रदारांश्च लालयन्. The objects of enjoyment became stale by the influence of Kalakanya due to the continuance of his lusty desires. King Puranjana became very poor in everything. Thus, he did not understand the aim of life. He was still very affectionate towards his wife and children, and he worried about maintaining them. गन्धर्वयवनाक्रान्तां कालकन्योपमर्दितां हातुं प्रचक्रमे राजा तां पुरीमनिकामतः. The city of King Puranjana was overcome by the Gandharva and the Yavana soldiers, and although the king had no desire to leave the city, he was circumstantially forced to do so, for it was smashed by Kalakanya. Bhayanamnograjo bhrata prajwarah pratyupastitah dadahatam purim krutsnam bhratruf priyachikirshaya. Under the circumstances, the elder brother of Yavana Raja, known as Prajwara, set fire to the city to please his younger brother, whose other name is fear itself. Tasyam sandhyahyamānāyām sapaurah saparichadaha kautumbhikah kutumbinya upatapyata sanvayaha. When the city was set ablaze, all the citizens and servants of the king, as well as all family members, sons, grandsons, wife, and other relatives, were within the fire. King Puranjana thus became very unhappy. Yavanoparudhayatano grastayam kalakanyaya puryam prajwara samsrushtaha purapalonvatapyata. The city's superintendent of police, the serpent, saw that the citizens were being attacked by Kalakanya, and he became very aggrieved to see his own residence set ablaze after being attacked by the Yavanas. Nasheke sovitum tatra purukruchroruve patuhu gantu maichattato vruksha kotaradivasanalaat. As a serpent living within the cavity of a tree wishes to leave when there is forest fire, so the city's police superintendent, the snake, wished to leave the city due to the fire's severe heat. Shitilavayavo yarhi gandharvairhuta paurushaha yavanairabhi rajan nruparuddho rurodaha. The limbs of the serpent's body were slackened by the Gandharvas and Yavana soldiers who had thoroughly defeated his bodily strength. When he attempted to leave the body, he was checked by his enemies. Being thus baffled in this attempt, he began to cry loudly. दुहितॄः पुत्रपौत्रांश्च जामिजामातृपार्षदान् स्वत्वावशिष्टं यत्किञ्चिद् गृहकोशपरिच्छदम्. King Puranjana then began to think of his daughters, sons, grandsons, daughters-in-law, sons-in-law, servants, and other associates, as well as his household paraphernalia, and his little accumulation of wealth. Aham mameti svikritya गृहेषु कुमतिर्गृही दध्यौ प्रमदयाधीनो viprayoga upastite. King Puranjana was overly attached to his family and conceptions of I and mine. Because he was overly attracted to his wife, he was always quite poverty stricken. At the time of separation, he became very sorry. Lokantaram gatavati mayyanata kutumbini vartishyate katam tvesha balakananushocati. King Puranjana was anxiously thinking, alas, my wife is encumbered by so many children. When I pass from this body, how will she be able to maintain all these family members? Alas, she will be greatly harassed by thoughts of family maintenance. Namayya nashite bhungte nastane nasnate snati matpara mayirushte susamtrasta bhatsite yatavagbhayat. King Puranjana then began to think of his past dealings with his wife. He recalled that his wife would not take her dinner until he had finished his, that she would not take her bath until he had finished his, and that she was always very, very much attached to him, so much so that if he would sometimes become angry and chastise her, she would simply remain silent and tolerate his misbehavior. Prabodhayati ma vignyam vyushite shokakarshita vartmaitad gruhamedhiyam veerasurapi neshyati. King Puranjana continued thinking how, when he was in a state of bewilderment, his wife would give him good counsel, and how she would become aggrieved when he was away from home. Although she was the mother of so many sons and heroes, the king still feared that she would not be able to maintain responsibility of household affairs. Katam nu dharakadhina dharakirvaparayanaha vartishyante mayi gate bhinnanava ivodhadau. King Puranjana continued worrying, after I pass from this world, how will my sons and daughters, who are now fully dependent on me, live and continue their lives? Their position will be similar to that of passengers aboard a ship wrecked in the midst of the ocean. Evam krupanaya buddhya sochantamatdarhanam grahitum krutadhirenam bhayanamabhyapadhyata. Although King Puranjana should not have lamented over the fate of his wife and children, he nonetheless did so due to his miserly intelligence. In the meantime, Yavana Raja, whose name was Fear itself, immediately drew near to arrest him. Pashuvadyavanairesha niyamanasvakam क्षयम् अन्वद्रवन्ननुपताः सोचन्तो भृशमातुराः. When the Yavanas were taking King Puranjana away to their place, binding him like an animal, the king's followers became greatly aggrieved. When they lamented, they were forced to go along with him. Purim vihayopagata uparuddho bhujangamah yada tamevanupuri vishirna prakrutim gata. The serpent, who had already been arrested by the soldiers of Yavana Raja and was out of the city, began to follow his master along with others. As soon as they all left the city, it was immediately dismantled and smashed to dust. Vikrushyamana prasabham yavanena baliyasa navindattamasa sakhayam suhrudam puraha. When King Puranjana was being dragged with a great force by the powerful Yavana out of his gross ignorance, he still could not remember his friend and well-wisher, the super soul. Tam yajñapashavo nena samjnapta yedayaluna kutaraishchichidhu kruddaha smaranto miva mayyatat. That most unkind king, Puranjana, had killed many animals in various sacrifices. Now, taking advantage of this opportunity, all these animals began to pierce him with their horns. It was as though he was being cut into pieces by axes. Anantapare tamasi magro nashtasmrutis samaha shashvatiranubhuyartim Pramadasangadhushitaha. Due to his contaminated association with women, a living entity like King Puranjana eternally suffers all the pangs of material existence and remains in the dark region of material life, bereft of all remembrance for many, many years. Tameva manasa gruhnan babhuva pramadottama anantaram vidarbhasya rajasimhasya veshmani. King Puranjana gave up his body while remembering his wife, and consequently, in his next life, he became a very beautiful and well suited woman. He took his next birth as the daughter of King Vidarbha in the very house of the king. Upayeme viryapanam Vaidarbhim malayadvajaha yudi nirjitya rajanyan pandyah parapuranjayaha. It was fixed that Vidarbhi, the daughter of King Vidarbha, was to be married to a very powerful man, Malayadvaja, an inhabitant of Pandu country. After conquering other princesses, he married the daughter of King Vidarbha. Tasyam sa janayan chakra atmajamasi tekshanam yaviyasah sapta sutan sapta dravida bhubrutaha. King Malayadvaja fathered one daughter who had very black eyes. He also had 7 sons who later became rulers of the tract of land known as Dravida. Thus there were 7 kings in that land. एकैकस्या भवत्तेषां राजन्नर्बुदमर्बुदम् भोक्ष्यते यद्वंशधरैर्महीमन्वन्तरं परम्. My dear king, Prachina Barhishit, the sons of Malayadwaja gave birth to many thousands and thousands of sons, and all of these have been protecting the entire world to the end of one's Manu's lifespan and even afterwards. Aghastyah pragduhitaram upaye me drutavratam yasyam dudhrutyuto jata idmavahatmajo munihi. The great sage named Agastya married the firstborn daughter of Malayadwaja, the avowed devotee of Lord Krishna. From her, one son was born, whose name was Drudachyuta, and from him another son was born, whose name was Idmavaha. Vibhajya tanayebhyah kshmam rajarshirmalayadvajaha ariradhya rishuh krishnam sagama kulachalam. After this, the great saintly king Malayadwaja divided his entire kingdom among his sons. Then, in order to worship Lord Krishna with full attention, he went to the soldier's place known as Kulakala. Hitva gruhan sutan bhogan vaidharbhi madirekshana anvadhavata pandyesham jyotsneva rajanikaram. Thus at the moonshine, just as the moonshine follows the moon at night, immediately after King Malayadwaja departed for Kulakala, his devoted wife, whose eyes were very enchanting, followed him, giving up all the homely happiness despite family and children. Tatra Chandravasa Nama Tambraparni Vatodhaka Tatpunyasalilair Nityam Ubhayatratmano Mrujan Kandashtibhir Mulaphalaihi Pushpaparnaistrunodhakaihi Vartamana Shanairgatra Karshanam Tapa Astitaha. In the province of Kulakala, there were rivers named Chandravasa, Tamraparni, and Vatadoka. King Malayadwaja used to go to these pious rivers regularly and take his bath there. Thus he purified himself externally and internally. He took his bath and ate bulbs, seeds, leaves, flowers, fruits, and grasses and drank water. In this way he underwent severe austerities. Eventually he became very skinny. Shitoshnavatavarshaani Shrutpipase priya priye Sukha dukhe iti dvandvan Yajayat samadharshanaha. Through austerity, King Malayadwaja in body and mind gradually became equal to the dualities of cold and heat, happiness and distress, wind and rain, hunger and thirst, the pleasant and the unpleasant. In this way, he conquered all relativities. Tapasa vidyaya kakka tapasa vidyaya pakva kashayo niyamairyamaihi yuyuje brahmanyatmanam vijitakshanilashayah. By worshipping, executing austerities, and following the regulative principles, King Malayadwaja conquered his senses, his life, and his consciousness. Thus, he fixed everything on central point of the Supreme Brahman, Krishna. Astesya astestaanurikaiva आस्तेस्ताणुरुकैकत्र दिव्यं वर्षसतं स्थिरः वासुदेवे भगवती नान्यद्वेदोद्वहन् गतिम्. In this way, he stayed immobile in one place for 100 years by the calculations of the demigods. After this time, he developed pure devotional attraction for Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and remained fixed in that position. Savyapakatayatmanam vyatiriktatayatmani vidwan swapna iva marsha sakshinam viraramaha. King Malayadwaja attained perfect knowledge by being able to distinguish the supersoul from the individual soul. The individual soul is localized, whereas the supersoul is all pervasive. He became perfect in knowledge that the material body is not the soul, but that the soul is the witness of the material body. Sakshad Bhagavatoktena Guruna Harina Nrupa Vishuddha Jnana Deepena Spurata Vishwato Mukham. In this way, King Malayadwaja attained perfect knowledge. Because of his pure state, he was directly instructed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By means of such enlightening transcendental knowledge, he could understand everything from all angles of vision. Pare Brahmani Chatmanam Param Brahma Tatatmani Vikshamano Vihayeksham Asmadu Pararamaha. King Malayadwaja could thus observe that the supersoul was sitting by his side and that he, as the individual soul, was sitting by the side of the supersoul. Since both were together, there was no need for separate interests. Thus he ceased from such activities. Patim Paramadharmagnyam Vaidharbi Malayadwajam Premna Paryacharadhitva Bhogan Sapati Devata. The daughter of King Vidarbha accepted her husband all in all as the supreme. She gave up all sensual enjoyment and in complete renunciation followed the principles of her husband, who was so advanced. Thus she remained engaged in his service. Chiravasa Vratakshama Veni Bhuta Shiroruha Vabha Vupapatim Shanta Shika Shantamiva. The daughter of King Vidarbha wore old garments and she was lean and thin because of her vows of austerity. Since she did not arrange her hair, it became entangled and twisted in locks. Although she remained always near her husband, she was as silent and unagitated as the flame of the undisturbed fire. अजानति प्रियतमं यदोपरतमङ्गना सुस्थिरासनमासाद्य यथा पूर्वमुपाचरत्. The daughter of King Vidarbha continued as usual to serve her husband, who was seated in a steady posture, until she could ascertain that he had passed away from the body. Yada nopalame yata yada nopalabhe tangra ushmanam pratyurarchati आसीत् संविघ्नहृदया यूतभ्रष्टा भृगीयता. While she was serving her husband by massaging his legs, she could feel that his feet were no longer warm and could thus understand that he had already passed from the body. She felt great anxiety upon being left alone, bereft of her husband's company. She felt exactly as the deer feels upon being separated from its mate. Atmanam sochati dhinam abandhum vilkavashrubhihi stanavasicya vipine sukaram pururodhasa. Being now alone and a widow in that forest, the daughter of Vidarbha began to lament incessantly, shedding tears which soaked her breasts and crying very loudly. Uttishtottishta rajarshe imamudadime kalam dhusyubhyah kshatrabandhubhyo Vibhyatim patumarhasi. O great of the kings, please get up, get up. Just see this world surrounded by water and infested with rogues and the so-called kings. This world is very much afraid, and it is your duty to protect her. Evam vilapanti bala Vipinenu gatapatim patita padayor bhartru rudatyashrunya vartayat. That most obedient wife thus fell down at the feet of her dead husband and began to cry pitifully in that solitary forest. Thus the tears rolled down from her eyes. Chitim darumayim chitva tasyam pratyuh kalevaram adipyachanumarane vilapanti manodhade. She then prepared a blazing fire with firewood and placed that dead body of her husband upon it. When this was finished, she lamented severely and prepared herself to perish in the fire with her husband. Tatra purvatara kaschit saka brahmanya atmavan santvayan valguna samna tamaharudatim prabho. My dear king, one Brahmana who was an old friend of the king Puranjana came to that place and began to pacify the queen with sweet words. Brahmana uvacha katvam kasyasi ko vayam shayano yasya sochasi janasi kim sakhayam mam yenagre vichacharyaha. The Brahmana inquired as follows: Who are you? Whose wife or daughter are you? Who is the man lying here? It appears you are lamenting for this dead body. Don't you recognize me? I am your eternal friend. You must remember that many times in the past you have consulted me. Api अपि स्मरसि चात्मानम् अविज्ञातसखं सखे हित्वा मां पदमन्विच्छन् भौमभोगरतो गतः. The Brahmana continued, "My dear friend, even though you cannot immediately recognize me, you cannot remember that in the past you had a very intimate friend. Unfortunately, you gave up my company and accepted a position as the enjoyer of this material world. Hamsavaham chatvam charya sakhayau manasayanau abhutamantaravaikaha sahasraparivatsaran." My dear gentle friend, both you and I are exactly like two swans. We live together in the same heart, which is just like the Manasa lake. Although we have been living together for many thousands of years, you are still far away from my original home. Sattvam vihaya mam bhando gato gramyamatirmahim vicharan padamadrakshihi kayachinnirmitam striya. My dear friend, you are now my very same friend. Since you left me, you have become more and more materialistic and not seeing me. You have been traveling in different forms throughout this material world, which was created by some woman. Pancharamam Navadvaram Ekapalam Trikotakam Shatkulam Panchavipanam Panchaprakriti Stridhavam. In this city, the material body, there are 5 gardens, 9 gates, 1 protector, 3 apartments, 6 families, 5 stores, 5 material elements, and 1 woman who is the lord of the house. Panchendriyartha arama dvarah prana navaprabho tejo bannani koshtani kulamindriya samgraha. My dear friend, the 5 gardens are the 5 objects of sense enjoyment, and the protector is the life air, which passes through the 9 gates. The 3 apartments are the chief ingredients, fire, water, and earth. The 6 families are the aggregate total of the mind and 5 senses. If Viparnastu kriya shaktir bhuta prakrutiravyaya shaktiyadhishah pumam stvatra pravishto navabhudyate. The 5 stores are the 5 working sensory organs. They transact their business through the combined forces of the 5 elements which are eternal. Behind all this activity is the soul. The soul is a person and the enjoyer in reality. However, because he is now hidden within the city of the body, he is devoid of knowledge. Tasmim stvam ramaya sprushto ramamano shrutasmrutihi tatsangadi dhrushim prapto dasham papi yasim prabho. My dear friend, when you enter such a body along with the woman of material desires, you become overly absorbed in the sense enjoyment. Because of this, you have forgotten your spiritual life. Due to the material conceptions, you are placed in various miserable conditions. Natvam vidharba duhita nayam vira suhruttava napatistvam puranjanya rudho navamuko yatyaya. Actually, you are not the daughter of Vidarbha, nor is this man. Malayadwaja, your well-wishing husband. Nor were you the actual husband of Puranjani. You were simply captivated in this body of 9 gates. माया ह्येषा मया सृष्टा यत्पुमांसं स्त्रियं सतीं मन्यसे नो भयं यद्वै हंसौ पश्यावयोर्गतिम्. Sometimes you think yourself a man, sometimes a chaste woman, and sometimes a neutral inansh. This is all because of the body, which is created by the illusionary energy. This illusionary energy is my potency, and actually, both of us, you and I, are pure spiritual identities. Now, just try to understand this. I am trying to explain our factual position. अहं भवान्न चान्यस्त्वं त्वमेवाहं विचक्ष्व भोः ननौ पश्यन्ति कवयश्चिच्छद्रं जातुमनागपि. My dear friend, I, the super soul, and you, the individual soul, are not different in quality, for we are both spiritual. In fact, my dear friend, you are qualitatively not different from me in your constitutional position. Just try to consider this subject. Those who are actually advanced scholars, who are in knowledge, do not find any qualitative difference between you and me. यथा पुरुष आत्मानं एकमादर्श चक्षुषोः द्विधा भूतमवेक्षेत तथैवान्तरमावयोः. As a person sees the reflection of his body in a mirror to be one with himself and not different, whereas others actually see two bodies, so is our material condition, in which the living being is affected and yet not affected. There is a difference between God and the living entity. Evam samanaso hamso hamsena pratiboditaha swastastadvyabhicharena nashtamapah punah smrutim. In this way, both swans live together in the heart. When the one swan is instructed by the other, he is situated in this constitutional position. This means he regains his original Krishna consciousness, which was lost because of his material attraction. Barhishmannetadadhyatmam parekshena pradarshitam yatparokshapriyo devo Bhagavan Vishvabhavanaha. My dear King Prachina Barhi, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of all causes, is celebrated to be known indirectly. Thus, I have described the story of Puranjana to you. Actually, it is an instruction for self-realization. Thus ends the chapter entitled Puranjana becomes a wife in the next life. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.